I don't want to sound like an advertisement, but if you ever have an opportunity to have Red Bull with toast and you don't have any medical issues that would prevent you doing so safely, you might want to try it. I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying you might want to. I'm just predicting that you might feel a desire to do that. I'm not telling you to do it. Oh, and the stuff I say about heroin later, that's not telling you to do heroin, just so we're clear. Later in this program, there's going to be some talk about, I think it starts with ecstasy, and then podcasting, and then heroin. And I say quite a lot of stuff. I just want you to know, it might sound a bit controversial to you, but no, it's fine. I'm not telling you to do heroin. In fact, let me make it clear right now, I don't think you should do heroin at all. Unless you're addicted. In which case, you shouldn't do it at all, but you should get a professional to assist you in coming off it under supervision. I'm not telling you what you should do to get off it. I don't know what you should do. Go and see a professional. Just like later on when I say something about kids getting a dead arm and then hiding it from their parents and not seeking help. When I say that, I'm not recommending kids hide it. Actually, I think that's clear later. Now that I think about it, I do make that clear. Or maybe I don't make the heroin thing clear. But I'm doing that now. So that's everything sorted. I think we're ready to get going with the show now. Isn't that great? So sit down and I'll start talking shit for about an hour or so. And then we'll spend the day chopping it down and there'll be about 5 minutes usable, including what you've just heard. And that'll be great. That'll be great for you. You'll enjoy that. You'll enjoy that. I've enjoyed it so far. I'm having a quite enjoyable time. I think I made myself laugh during the heroin thing that I recorded earlier. So that's good. Hopefully you will too. But hopefully you won't be laughing for the wrong reasons. I hope you find yourself laughing at the heroin thing. You won't be going, oh, that's hilarious. He's addicted to heroin. I've never done heroin in my life. See, that would be a wrong reason to laugh at it. Well, maybe not. Now that you mention it, do you listen to the great songwriters? They play a song, and you listen to a song, and you see different things in it than the songwriter does, has different meanings for you. That doesn't make it wrong. No. So if you listen to my heroin material later and you think, oh, that's hilarious, but for a different reason than he thinks it's hilarious, that's okay. You're perfectly entitled to do that. What you're not entitled to do is to say, oh, that's not entertainment. He's saying something very, very, very controversial and I'm against it. No, you're not allowed to do that because this is my podcast and you're not my real mom. So don't do that. Anyway, I think that covers everything, does it? Probably does. Probably does.
Into your head, into your head, into your head, into your head, into your head.
If you're listening to this in a wardrobe, I'd like you to try the following experiment for me, please. If you don't mind. If it doesn't distract from your duties, whatever it is you do inside a wardrobe, I presume you have a reason to be there. There's plenty of reasons you'd be inside a wardrobe. I remember as a teenager, I used to go into a wardrobe of a Sunday morning sometimes. I had a quite spacious wardrobe. It wasn't a walk-in wardrobe, but it was quite empty, and there was shelving on one side, like a little shelving unit, and you could sit on that inside your wardrobe. Almost like the confessional box in the local church. And that's not why I went in there, but it's interesting I should mention that, because I'd go in there to try to create the impression that I was gone to Mass for an hour. It didn't really occur to me that nobody gave a shit whether I went to Mass or not. I used to hide in the wardrobe with my radio Walkman. A radio Walkman was a big part of my life as a teenager. I got my first Sony Walkman cassette player and radio when I was 13. And I broke my first Sony radio Walkman when I was 14. And I had about 20 more of them since. Most of them were not Sony brands. Turned out you can get something cheaper than a Sony Mega Bass Walkman. Go into some dodgy backstreet electrical shop off the main street. It was like the retailed equivalent of off Broadway. You Americans like to refer to your off Broadway productions. If I understand correctly, you were referring to places in smaller theatre groups, and they're kind of on the fringes because they're not in the big fancy things where they have your man out of Dexter now. I think they have him doing a musical that David Bowie wrote. I haven't read up on it, but what I understand, your man out of Dexter, who played the serial killer, who previously played a funeral director in 6 Feet Under, he's in musicals. I don't think there's anything particularly interesting about that. But people like to point it out. In fact, I like to point it out. I pointed it out to my wife yesterday. Turned out she already knew. She said, "Oh yes, he's in musicals." Oh, sorry. Excuse me for providing information that isn't new. This is the information age. Everyone has every inch, every morsel, every bit of information is at everybody's fingertips. There's no capacity for small talk anymore because everyone knows everything. Everybody knows everything. You're listening to this now and you're thinking, "Oh, I know that. I know that. I know about everybody knowing everything. I know about the internet. I know all about wardrobes." Oh, I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. Because you have the internet now. Anyone who's into wardrobes can just find a group somewhere and just connect up with all the wardrobe people. Just ignore all the anti-wardrobe people or the people who are neutral about wardrobes. You can just connect up with all the wardrobe people online and then you have your own little virtual society. Well, you're real people. I suppose it is a real society. It's not fair to call it a virtual society just because you're not standing in the same room. A forum or a WhatsApp group is a society in a way. You have rules or conventions, you have things people say to each other and things people don't. And you judge each other. That's a society. And then within the wardrobe community, there were people who remember hiding in the wardrobe of a Sunday morning with a Sony Walkman. They're probably listening to Mass on the Walkman, some of them. Some of them would listen to Mass on their Walkman in the wardrobe. And of that society, there were further sub-societies. There was one faction who would hide in the wardrobe listening to Mass because they actually liked Mass, they just didn't like travelling to the church. Or there'd be other ones who liked going to Mass, but they weren't allowed to. And it was a big secret thing, so they did that in their wardrobe. And then there was people who were listening to Mass ironically. They thought, "Oh, this is hilarious. I'm hiding in the wardrobe to not go to Mass, but I'm listening to it on my radio." May well be listening on an English radio station that has that other religion. So it's not even the same type of Mass. I don't know what you think you're doing there. Are you rebelling or something? I don't know. Or maybe you're just waiting for the omnibus of the Archers. Of course, nowadays, if you said that to someone, they call you a West Brit. So that's a good reason to hide in the wardrobe while you're doing that. You can't be listening to English radio soap entertainment of a Sunday morning when you should be at Mass or you should be not at Mass, whichever it is you think is expected of you. I remember that wardrobe. I remember at the time I thought it was quite a good wardrobe, but now I'm reminded that later on in life, we had a massive wardrobe. Absolutely fucking fantastic. Much closer to the size of a confession box than the previous one from my teenagerdom. Big and bulky and chunky. And it was in the downstairs hall. It was being used as a storage closet. But more importantly, it was beside the stairs. And the cats would go up to the top of the stairs, go through between the banisters, and then you're on top of this wardrobe. It's a fucking fantastic place for a cat to sit and watch the world. You'd have a full view of the front door, and yes, you had the sun beaming in on you from an upstairs landing window. You could see what was going on and smell everything. That's the kind of wardrobe you should have. I want that for you. If you ever have a house, if you're from the younger generation, perhaps you're a drug dealer and you accumulate a lot of wealth and you're laundering it, and you get a house somehow. That's what I want for you. I want you to have a huge wardrobe in the downstairs hall beside the landing. for the cats. Now you're thinking maybe I don't have cats. I know, you don't have a house either. Someday you might. Have a bit of fucking ambition. Someday you might have a house and you're thinking now I don't want cats. Well, when you have a house you might see it differently. We didn't have cats. We didn't even know we were going to have cats. In fact, we had a dog for a while. We went to the vets once with a dog, or rather my wife did, and came back with the dog and the kitten. Don't be so cocky and think you're never going to have a cat. And also don't be so negative and think you're never going to have a house. You may well become a very, very, very successful drug dealer. And you're probably thinking there, no, I won't do that. I'm not a criminal. I will not be involved in any criminal enterprises. Well, that's what your man out of Breaking Bad thought too. Remember him? He thought, I'm a chemistry teacher. I'll be a chemistry teacher for life. And then it turned out his life was going to end soon. And he decided, I'll go and become a drugs baron to look after my family. And that's what a proper adult does. When life comes at them, they deal with it. Now I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking that was entirely fiction. And it didn't end well for anyone involved. His family were miserable at the end. He was dead. He was going to be dead anyway, but he was dead. And lots of bad stuff happened in the run-up to his death, such as, for example, him being killed. There was lots of other stuff. I don't want to give spoilers for Breaking Bad. You've only had a decade to get to the finale. You may also be a slow watcher. I know people like to say, you're a slow reader. There's nothing wrong with being a slow reader. I'm quite slow at reading. For one thing, I don't read anymore. I listen to audiobooks. I think I used to get through 30 pages in an hour if I was particularly enjoying it. But if you're a slow reader, you may also be a slow watcher of television. Problem is, you can't watch it in slow motion. People do that with audiobooks. They slow down the speed, or they listen at double speed or something. You can claim that you're a fast reader, but you're not really. Well, that's fine. As an audiobook user, I'm well used to people thinking their whole audiobook readers are cheats. You're not. If you're an audiobook reader, it benefits me for you to read at double speed. Because the more books you get through, the more demand, the more availability and selection there is for me as someone who depends on them. So never apologise for reading audiobooks or demanding them. Oh, that was almost a serious point, isn't it? That's great. That's profound, and it is. And you see people sometimes, they come on and Twitter and they say audiobook reading doesn't count and people who do it are ignoramuses. Well, fuck you. Fuck you. I know they're talking about people who are able to read and yet read audiobooks. Well, those are the people who are causing there to be a large selection of audiobooks availability. You went into a bookshop 30 years ago. You go up to some bookshelf and you say, oh, where's the spoken word section? And you'll find it. There'll be a thing called the spoken word section. The biggest bookshop in the middle of Dublin had one. It was maybe 100 tapes. And half of them were TV sitcoms turned into audio productions. And then there'd be some audio books. You'd have the Bible. If you were lucky, there'd be Stephen King's The Stand and a 38-part cassette tape. There was almost nothing. About a quarter of that section was stand-up by comedians from America we never heard of. Half of them were already dead. So I used to collect Bill Hicks tapes. And then, of course, I bought the Denis Leary thing that everyone was into for a while. Denis Leary had a comedy act stand-up called No Cure for Cancer in the 80s or 90s, and it was quite entertaining. He was a rock star type comedian. He'd do a lot of shouting and talking about how he smokes and stuff. He would put in songs like I'm an asshole in the middle of his albums. Bill Hicks would just say stuff. He'd say wherever the fuck he wants. Well, he died, and the people who were listening to Denis Leary eventually heard of this Bill Hicks fella. Like me, they hadn't heard of him until after he was dead. And then they realised, wait a minute, what in the name of Christ? And then, of course, you know what happened then? Leary became an actor in some sort of fire brigade thing. I'm going around cleaning up fires now. You can't criticise me because I'm playing a hero. I'm a hero. I do nice things now. I don't go around doing whatever it is I did. No, I'm a nice person now. I fight fires. I go into a fire and I go, you, fire. You're not okay. We're going to deal with you. I'm going to get water. Unless it's one of those. There are certain types of fire that you can't put water on because it just makes it worse. You do have to have that kind of knowledge before you go in and fight a fire. You can't just say, oh, I've been training to fight this fire. Do you have a weigh in before you go firefighting? You probably should, Your weight and size would affect how much oxygen you need, surely. That seems rather important. Perhaps they do. Perhaps they keep it confidential. It's not like you're going on TV and you have the fans wanting to know everything. No, you're a firefighter. That's private personnel data. You don't just go giving that out to anyone who wants it. It's personal medical data that your employer needs some way of grading them to say, he's a heavyweight. Here's the amount of oxygen he needs to go into up to the third floor. And this other fella, he's lighter weight. He needs a different amount of oxygen. I'm assuming all this. It's not like I'm an expert on firefighting. Neither are you, though, so don't judge it. Just listen and don't judge. There's a George Michael album called Listen Without Prejudice. And of course nobody did. They listened to it and said, this is crap. This is going to be crap, pure filth and muck and dirt, some of them. Then others will go, oh, this is great. This is great. He's doing this thing. You have to have faith. You have to have faith. And then he went off and did the thing with Queen. He said, Freddie Mercury's dead. I'm going to stand in and go, find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Then he died too. So that was a bit sad. It was a bit much, to be perfectly honest. Freddie Mercury died. And you had this huge tribute concert. All these stars came in and stood in for Freddie and said, oh, we're going to sing stuff. They all sang. They sang and they sang. They sang their little hearts out. But now half the people who sang at that are dead. George Michael's dead. Who else is dead? Who was at the Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert? David Bowie played it. He's dead. There's one for you. David Bowie. He played it. He wasn't dead then. He's dead now. Did Michael Jackson play it? No. Michael Jackson did, however, record with Freddie Mercury. He recorded some absolute tripe that has barely seen the light of day, thankfully. I've already said George Michael. They made about 3 documentaries about him last year. Nobody had mentioned him for about a decade. And now they have Robbie Williams for you Americans. He was a member of a boy band in the 90s in England. He was the first one to leave. Became quite a big solo artist for a few years and then disappeared a bit. A movie came out about him a few weeks ago where apparently he's portrayed as a monkey, and it's something to do with how the record industry looked upon him as a performing monkey. Everyone's saying it's great. Apparently it's great. And of course you Americans now are going, does he mean Robin Williams? No, I do not mean Robin Williams. No. That's a different person altogether. Different person. Same surname, slightly different first name. A different variation on the first name, anyway. Is Robbie short for Robber? I suppose it is. But then what if your parents just name you Robbie straight off? You can't claim then that it's short for Robber. They called you Robbie straight off. You can't go around claiming you have the same name as someone who's officially Robert, who gets it shortened to Robbie informally. If you were christened Robbie and never called Robert in the first place, you don't get to say they have the same name as someone whose name is officially Robert but who goes by Robbie. No.
Into your head.
I've taken the unusual step for this podcast of using the gap between segments to do some research. Don't worry, it's not a new format. I just wanted to have a list of who performed at the Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert. Didn't look up a list of who performed but is now dead, because I want to work that out for myself. I want to leave some work for me. I don't want it all fed to me like a teleprompter. No, I have a Wikipedia thing of performers. There was Metallica, they're not dead. There was Extreme, I don't think they're dead. I don't know if they exist anymore either. And then there was Def Leppard. Now they're definitely not dead, but the drummer has one less arm than he used to have. I don't know if he still had that arm when he was at the Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert. Oh, they played Let's Get Rocked. Yes, that's correct. He already had lost his arm because he lost his arm during that, before that Hysteria album, if I remember rightly. And that was definitely prior to Let's Get Rocked. So I know that. So one of his arms was dead when he performed. And that's unusual because we're figuring out people who've died since. This fella had already started to die before he performed. One of his arms had died, but he's still alive now. Alive and well, from what I understand, and doing very, very well for himself. So that's good. That's encouraging. That's some good news to come out of that. He was in some sort of an accident and he lost his arm, and within 3 months he had a new system set up so he could perform drums with one arm. So absolutely fantastic, especially when you think of all the people who are at this, who are dead now. I know what you're thinking there. Well, in this part of the world, you think a dead arm. I've had a dead arm several times in the schoolyard. I was given a dead arm. It's no big deal at all. A dead arm is where some kid grabs your arm and sort of bends it around behind you, sort of becomes numb or something. So it's not very pleasant, but you survive. I suppose in theory, if you kept them in the dead arm position for long enough, could you cut off circulation and cause them to lose the arm? Maybe. Most people who lose an arm go through some terrifying accident. Someone drops a chainsaw on them, or they're in a car crash, or they have other kinds of trauma happen to them. And that's terrifying. Other people will have the same result. They lose an arm, and it's just from some kid doing their dead arm for too long on it, and they got that. And you think, we have the same result. Well, that's not very profound, I know. But someone going through a car crash can have the same result as someone being bullied in the school playground. I've never heard of anyone losing their arm that way. I do remember that when I was bullied at school, I wouldn't tell people about it. So it's very likely that if I got a dead arm, I would not tell any adults about it. So I just silently lose an arm and just carry on and kind of cover it up. You'd still have the arm because you wouldn't go to a doctor if you haven't told an adult about it. So you'd have the dead arm, just wouldn't be working, and you would just pretend. You just go, oh no, everything's fine. That's what I'd have done anyway. Of course, I think about that now as an adult. I think that wouldn't have worked. Eventually the arm would have rotted or something. You've got some terrible infection. You can't just leave it like that. It's like getting frostbite while you're up on Mount Everest. But at some point you have to visit a hospital on the way home. They all do this on Mount Everest. They get their frostbite and then they go down. It takes a few days to get down, and then it takes a couple more days to get to the nearest village, and then they get to a hospital eventually. By the time they get to a hospital, they've had their fingers rotting for over a week. So that's what makes it dangerous. So no, if you're listening to this as a child and you're getting a dead arm regularly, please don't just leave it. If it becomes permanently dead, you need to tell an adult. Tell an adult. Or I'll tell you what you do. If you're nervous about telling an adult, if you have a wardrobe, go into that and practice telling an adult. Pretend it's the confession box. Now, you've probably never been to a confession box, have you? No. Well, that's why you need to practice. Practice there. Just remember, it's not a sin. You're the victim here. You haven't committed a sin. So you go into the confession box, you're not actually confessing to anything. You're sharing something that's happened to you that an adult needs to know about. Your arm is being deadened. Someone has deadened your arm. You need medical attention. So go into the confession box and practice telling an adult. Not necessarily a priest or someone in a real confession box. Just practice telling an adult. Maybe practice it on your phone. I don't know. Practice WhatsApping your parents in the wardrobe where no one can see you. And then most important thing is to actually tell someone. Set yourself an hour. An hour from now, I'm going to have told a real adult in real life. I'm giving myself 60 minutes to practice and work up to it. But you're going to have to do it. Maybe have some coffee and energy drinks, and that'll help you work up to it. I don't know. What do you young people do when you're going to do something stressful? Because I remember when I was in school, we were just starting into the era of Red Bull. So you'd see some kids just before the school leaving exams, they'd have a can of Red Bull. I was fascinated. I thought, what is that? What are they drinking? Red Bull. What in the name of Christ? Red Bull is an energy drink. And about 15 years later, I very much discovered energy drinks because I have about 3 gallons of them before each podcast. I know back then, the cool kids were starting to use Red Bull. Now, of course, it didn't necessarily have an advantage for them because there were a reason they were drinking Red Bulls because they'd been up all night. Probably in some disco. This was in the 90s. To go to some rave disco and do drugs. They do drugs like ecstasy in those days. I think they did. They had ecstasy in the 90s. They'd go into some nightclub and they'd say, hello, we want to do drugs here. And then one of their friends would say, don't announce it, you fucking idiot. Don't announce it. And of course they'd say, having not been in a nightclub before, they'd say, wait, are you not allowed it or something? If you've never been in a nightclub before, you don't know how it works. There's a first time for everything and there's a first time for everyone. And if you go in there in the era when everyone's doing ecstasy, someone gives you a pill. You say, oh, I got an ecstasy pill, I'm going to take it now. I'm going to take a beverage to wash it down. If you wanted to look macho, for some reason the kids don't, but if you wanted to look macho, you do what men do in dramas and movies and things. They have a stressful event. They take out a pill from a little bottle that they have in their pocket and they throw it into their mouth and swallow it dry. He's having a stressful day and he'd stop in the middle of something and he'd look like he was about to have a heart attack or something. And he'd say, oh, I'm having a heart attack. Where's my pills that I keep in my pocket for that exact purpose? You take out these pills. Oh, Christ, I'm running low. I need to stop having a heart attack every 5 minutes. Oh, no, he'd pop a pill and swallow it and then carry on with his day. It looked cool. Now, I'm not saying I recommend it. I'm not a doctor for one thing, and if I was a doctor, it would be unlikely that it would be legal for me to prescribe that, especially over international state lines. So no, ask your doctor about all that. All I'm saying is these kids in the 90s, they'd be in some nightclub and they say, oh, an ecstasy tablet, I'm going to try one of them. But I very much doubt they just chew it in their mouth and swallowed it dry like that. To be fair, I don't know. I was never involved in any of that. If you're in a nightclub, you're getting a beverage anyway, so why would you swallow it dry? Now that I think about it, you wouldn't want to be seen swallowing it dry in a nightclub, because that would make people think you're a cheapskate who doesn't want to buy yourself a beverage even when you're popping a pill. No. And also, of course, the thing with these ecstasy tablets, from what I understand, you're supposed to drink plenty of water. You need to drink plenty of water. Apparently that's a thing. You can dry up completely. You swallow an ecstasy tablet, it's like a sponge. It soaks up every bit of moisture in your body, every bit of water or blood or whatever liquid there is. If you're dehydrated and you're thinking, no, I better have some beverages, would it not also be sensible to have a blood infusion? If you're indulging in sport where you risk dehydration, maybe you're a long-distance cyclist or something and you're responsible, so you think about keeping yourself hydrated. So you keep a bottle of water on you, you make sure to have sips from it all the time. Surely the responsible thing would be to also have a bag of blood strapped onto your side, on a drip, having blood slowly dripping into you. That's liquid and it's dripping into you. When you intake blood, I presume that doesn't cause you to piss more, does it? You're adding liquid into your body, but you're not going to be letting it out in the form of piss. But then where does the blood go that you're losing? Well, I suppose it doesn't go anywhere. It becomes less liquidy. So I suppose the liquid from that gets used up by your system. But you have a system whereby you wear a urine bag on one leg and you wear a blood bag on one leg. Maybe you won't need a blood bag. If you have the urine bag, you drink plenty of water because that's a lot easier than taking in a lot of blood. And then some of the wastewater that comes out into your piss bag can go back in through another drip. You have a drip that comes out of your bladder and into the piss bag. Maybe you have some filters in the piss bag that improve the piss a bit. And then it has an outlet that goes into a drip that goes into your blood system. So it's replacing the moisture that's lost from your blood from the dehydration. Would that work? I don't know, but if you're one of these kids in university who's spending half your time doing drugs in nightclubs, hopefully you're working on your academic stuff during the day. It's okay to be enjoying yourself, but hopefully during the day you're earning your keep at that university. So maybe you could get working on that. A new medical breakthrough in the war against dehydration. Anyway, oh yes, the Freddie Mercury thing. Bob Geldof, he's not dead. Spinal Tap were never alive in the first place. They're not real. U2, unfortunately, they're still going. Guns N' Roses, they're kind of dead, but they're alive. They're a zombie band. Oh, and then they have Elizabeth Taylor. AIDS prevention speech. Does that count as a performance? I suppose it does. It's a spoken word performance. She did a speech about preventing AIDS. She said, don't get AIDS and prevent others from getting it. It's a bad thing. There was 1 million people gathered in this stadium and 1 billion people watching it on television around the world about this tribute thing to Freddie Mercury. And Elizabeth Taylor comes on and says, I don't remember what she said, but I presume it was something along the lines of, I know we're all here celebrating AIDS today. We're celebrating the life of Freddie Mercury, the last couple of years, especially those 2 albums he made after he stopped touring and before he was dead. Those were fantastic. That's something good that came out of this, but don't think that means AIDS is good. AIDS is bad. That's what she said, I assume. I'm going to be very surprised if I look up and I find out she says something other than that. Because what else would you say? What else would be appropriate to say? I don't know. Maybe you say, look at your man of Frankie Goes to Hollywood. 30 years later, he's still alive and well and performing. And Freddie Mercury's dead. What does that tell you? Maybe they know more now. And then there's Joe Elliott and Slash. Now, Joe Elliott is the singer out of Def Leppard. He's still alive. He lives in Ireland. Oh, Queen and Roger Daltrey. Tony Iommi, I'm not sure about him. I'm not seeing a lot of dead people in this list. Robert Plant, he's alive and well. The singer out of Led Zeppelin. He came on with Queen and tried to do innuendo, but he allegedly forgot the words. He just sort of transitioned into a verse from a Led Zeppelin song. He was in the middle of doing innuendo. He was going, let's see if I can recreate it for you. Innuendo was this smash hit Queen rock song with loads of stuff on it. An epic that came out in their final year. And Robert Plant came on and sang that with him. He went, something, something, and free to bendo. Don't take offence at my innuendo. But he didn't even get to that part. It is a very long song. He seemed to forget the words. So he transitioned into a Led Zeppelin song. He transitioned into, if the sun refused to shine, there would still be you and me, etc. Who else? Paul Young, he's dead. In fact, I only realised he was dead a couple of weeks ago. I came across something about Paul Young. He died some time ago. That's terrible. I can't seem to find a lot of dead people. It's not a particularly well-ordered list, so blame whoever wrote that Wikipedia article. That fucking Wikipedia. You go on there, you say, I want some facts. Is the information age. I'm going to go online and find some facts. Take this unprecedented action of doing a bit of research between segments. I'm going to look up this thing. I don't think it went well at all. I won't be doing that again, I can tell you. No. Research, preparedness, all that shit. It doesn't work. Not for this podcast anyway. It doesn't work. There's going to be no more of that shit. This segment has been going for 22 minutes. Surely to Christ I didn't spend the whole 22 minutes reading that. So I must have deviated at some point and talked about stuff. Suppose I must have. Did I? I know I talked about AIDS or something. Oh yes, the ecstasy stuff. I did that. See, that stuff I think was at least a bit more interesting. Oh yes, how could I forget the arm, the dead arm? I did that. Oh, that was okay. So it wasn't complete tripe. I'll cut out the stuff that was complete tripe and we'll salvage it somehow. That's what we'll do. Like you would if you got a dead arm and you presented it to the medics in a timely manner. They'd say, oh, your arm is dead. We may be able to save it somewhat. maybe we'll cut out a bit of it and see how it goes. You might be able to save a bit of it. You might lose a bit of your arm, but you might gain. You'll be losing either way, but by coming here early, you'll have gained a better chance of not losing all of your arm. So there's that. And maybe you'll gain nothing. Maybe it'll all be a failure and you'll still lose it. But at least you'll have gained a chance of that not happening. So if you go out of here and you've no arm because it's failed, you'll at least have gained something. Of course, the kid will go, wait, what will I have gained? If you don't manage to save the arm and I leave without the arm, what will I have gained? Of course, the doctor, as a proper, intelligent, educated adult, will rightly explain what you've gained is the chance of not having lost that arm, a better chance of not having lost that arm. You can't play the lotto if you don't buy a ticket. If you hadn't come here and sought my help in a timely manner as you did, that's not buying a ticket. And of course the kid will say, but how much is the ticket? And the doctor will say, that depends. Where is this interaction happening? Is it in America? Because then you're fucked. Is it in Ireland? Well then, that depends. We did have an election a few weeks ago. They form a government eventually. And then a week into the government, everyone is on Twitter going, oh, election, call an election soon, call an election. It'll be more enjoyable and satisfying if you give yourself a break. Even if you want an election right now, you want another election right now, this minute. If you like chocolate and you eat it non-stop all day, every day, you're not getting much enjoyment out of that. It's the same with drugs. If you enjoy a bit of heroin, you like to wind down with a bit of heroin, and you end up taking it all day, every day. I can guarantee, I've never done heroin, but I'm pretty sure I can guarantee you that it's not good. You don't get the satisfaction. If you're going to do heroin, limit yourself. Tell yourself, no heroin on weeknights. We'll have it every second Saturday, we'll do heroin. I would do it on Friday, because then you have the weekend to recover. If you're doing it responsibly, there shouldn't be much recovery involved. But still, if you're going to do that, do it on a Friday. Now, of course, I'm being rather presumptuous in thinking that you live a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday life. Not everyone does. You might be, maybe you're a firefighter or an ambulance driver or an airline pilot. You don't all work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. So it's rather presumptuous of me to say, do your heroin on a Friday night when you have the weekend off. But you just be careful with the heroin though, please. For one thing, it's illegal. I know you're not all listening in the same jurisdiction, but it's very likely that wherever you are, it's illegal to do heroin or illegal to possess it. And I know you're thinking, if it's illegal to possess it, I just get it out of my possession as quickly as possible, so I'll inject it into my veins. No, that's not a viable solution. I know it seems like it is now. It's not a viable solution. Because you'll just be, if you have a load of heroin now, if you have a big syringe full of heroin right now, then later on you're just going to get hungry again. And then you think, oh Christ, more heroin. I'm sick of this fucking heroin. I have to have something else. I want to have something else. You can't, even the nicest thing that you could possibly enjoy doing with your spare time gets a bit much if you do it all the time. I don't make podcasts every day of the year, every day of the week. No, I would lose it. This is a hobby. If you do it every day, you get sick of it. This is a thing you do to wind down. I'm doing this to wind down maybe once a week or so. Once a week to wind down. I have about eight double espressos and about 3 cans of generic energy drink. And I spend the afternoon recording and wondering whether this is going to be of any use. And then I lie awake at night. I listen to the raw recordings on Dropbox on my phone when I go to bed. I think, Christ, how am I going to salvage anything out of this? And then the next day I get down to editing it. I usually find something. I find that very relaxing, but if I did it every day, I would just be a bit much. I would just say, oh, I'm sick of this shit. It's not enjoyable anymore. And the same is true, I presume, of heroin, except heroin is also illegal, so you have that as well. If it was illegal to do podcasts and over caffeinate yourself as a hobby, that would make this a lot more stressful for me than it is at the moment. So I could see how having heroin as your thing that you do to wind down would be. Is this in bad taste? I don't know. I don't know anyone who does heroin, and I've nothing against people who are addicted to heroin, so please don't take it as a mocking people who do heroin. It's a terrible thing. In real life, people who do heroin have encountered a terrible tragedy. Their life is being ruined, and they deserve all the support society can give them. But so do I. I do a lot of caffeine. I happen to have a hobby that I enjoy where I do tasteless humour. So please indulge me in that. All I ask is to be allowed to make 1,800 episodes of distasteful nonsense drivel.
Are you going into your head?
Once upon a time, there was a dog. A dog. A dog. A dog. A dog. A dog. Basically a dog. And this dog was sitting on the street one day, minding his own business, but also being rather territorial. Lying on the street is itself a territorial stance. If you're lying on the street, you know damn well that street is part of human society, human civilization. And if you're a dog and you're occupying part of that street, you know damn well what you're doing. You're saying, this may well be your territory, but it's also mine. It's like there's more than one layer of territory there. The underlay of this whole planet is territory that was previously owned and occupied by these dogs and whatever other animals existed before them. Perhaps dinosaurs, perhaps woolly mammoths, perhaps cows. Is there such a thing as wild cows? I don't know. Let's explore that later. There's a layer of territory that's occupied and owned by the animals. Well, then there's a layer of human civilization built on top of that, of infrastructure, roads and streets and rules and public property and private property and railway lines and places where you're allowed to jump into the sea for fun and places where you're not allowed to jump into the sea for any reason. All that is an overlay over the dogs and animals territory that we put on top of it. And the dog knows that. He's being a smart horse. He's sitting on that street there, on that road, saying, if this was the real world, he'd be paying ground rent on this area because it's mine. I don't know if you have this in other countries or nowadays, but it used to be. You'd buy a house and you'd be paying ground rent to someone for some reason. I don't know exactly how it works. I remember my parents talking about ground rent and about freehold. They owned the house, or someone else still owns the ground for 100 years or something. I'm not sure how it works. I may be misunderstanding it. But that's what's happening with the dog there. That dog is saying, your layer goes down 3 inches under that, or maybe a bit further where you have the sewer pipes and things. That goes down a bit further. That's very much encroaching on my layer. That's what a dog thinks. The dog doesn't understand that it's all metaphorical. There's sewage pipes, not further than 3 inches down, I can tell you. But the dog knows damn well. Well, maybe he doesn't because he's a dog. Do dogs know anything? I'm not entirely sure that they do. Maybe cats do. I don't know. But that dog, he's thinking, I own everything beneath the top 3 inches, basically the topsoil, is what is the layer of. That's the layer of territory that's occupied by human civilization. But it's built on top of my stuff. And my stuff, I still own the lease. I still own the freehold on that as far as I'm concerned. I may not be able to collect rent from you, ground rent, because you've made laws that don't force yourselves to Basically, you know damn well you owe me ground rent for this, but you're not going to pay it because you've managed to build a civilization of laws that don't allow dogs to own things or to collect debts. And that's a problem for me. I put up with it. I'm a sellout. The modern dog is a sellout. This is my property, my ground, but you come on here and you pet me and you make me wag my tail and you throw sticks and you give me food. And for some reason I find that very endearing as a dog. But this is one part of my day where I just make a small token gesture of recognizing that I own this fucking place. I sit on the street, go, this is mine. It's all mine. And the dog likes to think that everyone who's going past in their car sees him. Just for a nanosecond, they feel a tiny shudder, tiny little shiver, because he remembers that beneath it all lies the dog's territory. Of course, what the dog has forgotten there is that there are other animals that are far more territorial than him. Imagine for a moment the human civilization never existed. There's no topsoil there of human civilization on top of the dogs. The dog doesn't realise that while he's there, a cat is going to come along and sit on the side of the road, whatever the equivalent is of a road in a dog-run society. The same way the dog is doing now, the cat comes along and sits on that and thinks, that's all mine underneath all that. And the other animals above me are big cats. They're like my big cousins. They're on my side. That's the thing about dogs. They don't have cousins who are huge, massive, growling things. And not in the way that cats have. I mean, they have dangerous dogs and they have aggressive dogs and they have dogs who eat people. But dogs don't have a cousin that's 50 times the size of them and lives in the jungle. The cats do. And it's about having connections. And of course, the dinosaurs are all dead. You may think the top 3 inches of topsoil is us, and then there's 3 inches below that of dog, and then another few inches below that of cats, maybe 6 or 7 inches, because you have a couple of layers. The top layer is domestic cats, and then below that there's the layer that's wild cats and saber-toothed tigers and things. And then below that, you have dinosaurs, but they're all dead. It's just fossils. They're not even dinosaur remains, they're fossils. You don't even have dead dinosaurs underneath there. So they don't even get to claim that it's a burial site that needs to be respected. If those were real dinosaur bones rather than just fossils, as I understand a fossil is just a thing that once contained a bone. The bone has gone away and has left a bone-shaped hole in the rock. Maybe I have that wrong. But you can't call that a burial site, that's the thing. So you don't even get the thing of saying, you're building this on top of our dinosaurs' ancient burial site. Have some respect. No, we have no respect for the dinosaurs. We barely accept that you even existed. Yeah, they abolished the Brontosaurus. I don't know if you realise, a few years ago, everyone likes to go on about how they declassified Pluto as a planet. They said it's not a real planet, it's an exoplanet or a mini planet or something now. They did the same with the Brontosaurus. They said that Brontosaurus never existed. They said the thing that we recognise as a Brontosaurus was in fact just another dinosaur breed that was quite similar to what we had already recognised. We thought the Brontosaurus was a separate thing, but it wasn't. So they abolished the Brontosaurus. And that doesn't mean they never existed. It doesn't mean they did exist either. It makes no difference to whether or not they existed, because they're past it. You can't change it by just changing the names. No. Well, maybe you can. I suppose you can rewrite history. Well, why would you do that for dinosaurs? It's not like the descendants of the dinosaurs are trying to make an argument for their owning a piece of land somewhere and they want to rewrite history to back up their territorial claims. No. No one has any incentive to rewrite dinosaur history. Now, I would argue, if you're in some business like Elon Musk and you have something planned, you say you're planning decades ahead and you have something way down in your plans to travel to Pluto at some point, investors on board and all, you have a big long-term plan, and suddenly Pluto becomes less valuable. whereas they were investing in a future trip to an actual planet. Now it's a future trip to something that's not even a planet. That's a reduction on their investment. But what in the name of Christ are you doing investing in Pluto? It's just occurred to me. I did the dog thing, and then I did Brontosauruses and Pluto. I didn't mention at all that Pluto was one of the most famous cartoon characters ever. Pluto from Disney. Yes, I think he was. Was he Disney? I think it was. I think it was. I didn't mention it at all because that would be just lazy and easy. Look how profound and clever I am. I brought Pluto into it, and Pluto was a dog. Was the planet? Well, it's not a planet anymore, but was it originally named after Pluto, I wonder? Or was Pluto the dog named after the planet? Of course, there may well be other civilizations in other solar systems who look at Pluto through their telescopes and they think, oh, there's a little shitty little planet over there in some other solar system that we'll probably never visit because we haven't invented air travel yet. They probably call it something else. But there's a good chance, whatever their civilization is, there's a good chance they have something comparable to dogs. You have some sort of pets. So it's probably possible that they might have named it after one of their dogs. So Pluto could be known under the name of a different dog in another solar system. The same Pluto. And that would be interesting. That's like, I just had a thought about what's that like and now it's gone. For fuck's sake. I had a thought in the middle of saying another thought and distracted myself. Oh yes, that's like if your cat runs away, or you think it runs away, or you find out it has a double life. Well, your cat has a double life and it goes to some neighbours every day. Your neighbours may well think he's their cat. They may well know your cat by a different name. You have a whole different personality over there that they've created for him, just like Pluto. In fact, now that I think about it, I don't know which was named first, the planet or the cartoon dog. But if the planet was named after the cartoon dog or vice versa, that probably hasn't helped Pluto. Because people look at Pluto when they're deciding whether or not to demote it. They're trying not to be prejudiced about it, but we all know in the back of their mind, their subconscious is thinking, oh, Pluto, the moron dog from that cartoon. That can't be a real planet, can it? No way, no way. And possibly on another solar system somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, they're looking at Pluto from very far away and they think, oh, look, that faint little dot in the sky. They're looking at our sun and they see sometimes there's a little spot that goes in front of it sometimes and they figure out that's a planetoid or something. And they probably look at it and they think, that's probably a big, huge planet. Certainly bigger than we've ever seen. Maybe they're made to a different scale than us. Maybe they're very like us, but they're 3 inches tall. Everything in their world is 3 inches tall as well. You have bonsai trees, but they're not bonsai trees to them. They're normal sized trees because they're bonsai people. Oh, that's not what I was going to say. Whatever they've named Pluto after could be some dog who's the He-Man of their cartoon world. Maybe they have a dog called He-Man who saves lives. There was a cartoon here on our planet when I was a child. Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds. Dogtanian in that was a very likeable dog and a hero. Wait a minute, is a hound a dog? I think it is. I was never quite sure about that as a child. There'd be some cartoons, there was dogs and they called them hounds. There's Huckleberry Hound, who was Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds. Oh, wait a minute, Dogtanian was referred to as a dog. He had dog in his name, he had Dogtanian. So it was the Three Muskehounds that were referred to as hounds. The Muskehounds, their names were not Muskehounds. Dogtanian's name was Dogtanian, but the Muskehounds' names were not. Muskehound Senior and Muskehound Junior and Muskehound the Third. Unless maybe it was their surname, but I don't think so. That was just the name of their group. They had a group called the Muskehounds, and Dogtanian had the word dog actually in his name. So no, he had the respect of being a dog. So Dogtanian could well have been like one of the dogs in that culture, in that faraway solar system that sees our Pluto as something fantastic, and they may well name it after their version of Dogtanian instead of some stupid Disney goofy dog. Oh wait, Goofy. Am I mixing up? Is there a dog called Goofy? Is there also a dog called Pluto? Are they two different things? Oh, for fuck's sake. I might have it all wrong now. There is a Goofy. Or is there also a Pluto? Are they both dumb dogs? I'm not sure now. Who cares? Just assume that in my world, there's a Disney dog called Pluto and he's a goofy idiot. Everything doesn't have to be completely factual. Just let her work for you. It'll be fine.